at Fox News said that something happened to him that was unprecedented, and that is that Republicans were providing him opposition research on you. Now, you just talked about personalities. I find it perfectly illustrative of the divide in this country, that here you are on a substantive effort to stop the encroachment of freedom and the growth of government in this country, and the issue is you and your personality. The media, obviously, but the Republicans, apparently some of them have joined this and made you and whatever your personality quirks are the issue rather than what you're talking about. I've not heard of the media being given opposition research by Republicans on another Republican.
Right. Well, unfortunately, there's an alliance between the Democrats, who certainly don't want to discuss the merits of Obamacare because it is such an abysmal failure, and many of the Republicans who are scared of this fight. I mean, they're scared that it won't work and that Republicans will get blamed and there's political risk. And so
the shutdown,
yeah. And so from day one, they said it can't work, it can't work. And the more momentum it got, the more the American people got motivated behind it, the more scared they got. And so that alliance, both the Republicans who don't want to have this fight and the Democrats who don't want to discuss the merits of the issue, they want to make it about anything else. And the easiest thing is to make it about personality. So they, get a bunch of anonymous congressional staffers to give all sorts of scurrilous quotes, and particularly if you include a little bit of profanity and, throw insults. And you know what? Who cares? Who cares? The American people do not care, and from my end, I'm not interested in playing that game.
Senator, are you afraid of me? Because Britt Hume and others at Fox News say that you are afraid of me and others on talk radio, and that's really the only reason why you're doing what you're doing, to avoid being primaried next time or whatever. I mean, I have to ask.
With all respect, I respect you, Rush. But listen, I would be surprised if you and I disagree on many issues at all. But the reason is not that there's any fear involved. The reason is that I got a job to do, and it's to listen to the people, listen to 26 million Texans, and fight for them. And the reason why I can't think of an issue on which you and I are likely to disagree is you spend every day listening to the people, too. We're listening to the same bosses and trying to respond to the same people who are frustrated.
I just listen. I respect them. I love them.
That's exactly right.
I trust them.
And Washington, look, in both parties, you've got entrenched politicians who have barely veiled contempt for the American people. I mean, they think their voters are gullible rubes, and if you give them a little show vote, you tell them, hey, I'm totally with you, then they go to Washington, and they don't actually do what they say.
Well, you do have that support, Senator. I've got to wrap it up here, and I know you have other things to do, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate this time that we've had with you here since your filibuster. Thank
you, Rush. Let me quickly say three things as we're wrapping up. Just one, I had the great privilege during the filibuster of reading your dad's essay, The Americans Who Risked Everything.
I'm so honored. I have the tape.
It was inspirational, and I'll tell you, it brought tears to my eyes. It's really powerful and beautiful. Just number two, quickly, to all of your listeners, this week is the fight in the Senate. And the reason the House voted as they did, the reason we've gotten where we are is because the American people have risen up an incredible level.
Hang on.
Petition at Don'tFundIt.
Hang on for number three. I had that dreaded hard break that I couldn't move. But Senator Cruz hung in there for the third thing. Why don't you mention number two and number three again? You had to hurry, number two.
Sure. Well, look, this week is the week that the Senate will decide. This vote will be Friday or Saturday. And the only reason we got to where we are is because the American people have risen up in incredible numbers. We've seen over 1.6 million people sign the national petition at don'tfundit.com. That is why the House voted last week to defund Obamacare. For weeks, everyone in Washington said they wouldn't do it, this would never happen, they would never fight this fight on the continuing resolution, but the American people rose up in enormous numbers. And so what I would say is, listen, at this stage in the fight, the fight is in the people's hands, and if we want to change Washington and get Republicans to listen, get Democrats to listen, what has to happen is I would urge every one of your listeners to go to don'tfundit.com to sign the national petition, number one. Number two, to pick up the phone, call their senators and tell them, vote no on cloture, stand strong on defunding Obamacare.
Would I be correct in pointing out that this has been your objective all along? You really do believe that the people of this country can affect change. You believe that the system is designed for this ability to exist, and that's all you're trying to do. You're not trying to overthrow Washington. You're not trying to upset the apple cart. You're not trying to rewrite anything. You just want the citizens to get involved and let their voice have and be the power it can be, correct?
That is exactly right, and it's the only way to change Washington. I mean, at the end of the day, look, I think some of the reason you've seen the unhappiness is by going to the people. We're basically appealing to the senator's boss, to my boss. I've got 26 million bosses. And if the American people stand up and light up the phones, light up Twitter, light up Facebook, light up email, and if elected senators hear from enough of their constituents, I promise you it gets their attention. And even those who don't want to stand and fight, all that has to happen is it has to get politically more risky to do the wrong thing than to do the right thing, and suddenly the numbers change in a big, big way. That's what happened in the House. The Senate's going to be harder.
Well, it's been done in 2007. The people rose up and stopped immigration reform in that summer. And what was pretty powerful then, Senator, because the Republicans at that point, we had a Republican president who was in favor of the immigration reform that was in the legislation. They had to go along with him, but it was the first time that they hadn't. The people rose up. It can be done.
Russia